Well, I have just finished recording my second Leading Ladies podcast with the wonderful Colleen Wittenberg. We met on ColdPlay, and she is an incredible woman, from cruise liners to pandemic, working in China, directing, lighting, you name it. She has done it all, and I couldn't be more proud of her. So I hope you enjoy the second episode of Leading Ladies podcast, part of Geezers of Gear. So I am thrilled to announce that Leading Ladies now has an exclusive sponsor, Light Switch. I kindly asked John Featherstone if he would come on just for this very first episode of Leading Ladies with Light Switch, just to come on and basically, have a little chat with me, just to introduce Light Switch properly, and for me to say thank you for wanting to be a sponsor. So enjoy the rest of the podcast.
LightSwitch is a collective of award-winning lighting, media, and visual designers committed to changing how people experience the world. For more than 30 years, we have been practicing pragmatic design. At LightSwitch, we believe it's our responsibility to keep our clients' creative, logistical, and financial objectives in balance. LightSwitch's range of expertise is extensive, from working one-on-one with clients and artists to multidisciplinary teams collaborating on all visual aspects of temporary and permanent projects. LightSwitch creates unforgettable moments and powerful experiences. We celebrate our team, clients, and all of our industry's diverse and talented people. As a part of our commitment to inclusion in all aspects of entertainment and experience design, LightSwitch is proud to sponsor Leading Ladies.
Hello, John. Welcome
Hello,
to
Sarah. How are
Leading
you?
Ladies podcast.
Well, thank you for having me. This is an auspicious occasion indeed, the kickoff of this new initiative, and we're really super proud to be involved.
Honestly, I cannot thank you enough. I have already done like a little promo bit at the start and played the video, which I loved. And I told all our listeners that you were coming on now, just really for me to say thank you to Light Switch for your support, basically. Because as soon as I had the first episode that went out, you guys contacted Marcel. I was like, how can we get involved? And for me, that was just like it was incredible. I was totally nervous about the whole thing, the concept. We just had a little chat, no, seriously, even approaching Marcel with the idea of Leading Ladies. And he was like, amazing. Well, in fact, the name hadn't come about at this point. The name came later from Marcel. And basically, I was like, but am I going to be good enough? Am I this? Am I that? And to have the support of you guys, it's amazing. So thank you.
No, well, you're most welcome, and I'm here kind of representing both my other 6, co-principals in Light Switch, all of whom were unanimous in our support, and the whole Light Switch organization, Sarah. And I just want to start by giving a huge shout out to Marcel. We really have some people in our industry that we're so fortunate to have, who are leaders not only in the evolution of the hardware and technology and creativity that we do, but also our sense of community. I think one of the things that I enjoy the most about what I do, and one of the things that's always been a core part of Light Switch, is this sense of community. And I think we have such a huge ally, advocate, and ambassador for community in our industry as Marcel. And we live in a time of increasing disparate separation, and I think it's great that we can all rally around and support each other and lift each other up. And we're so proud to be involved with both Leading Ladies and sort of build on the foundation of Geezers of Gear. I think my former fellow countryman Isaac Newton had a great quote. He said, "If I have sinned further, it is because I'm standing on the shoulders of giants." And I think some of the people that have been on Geezers of Gear are the giants of our industry, and it's amazing to be able to recognize those people. And I hope that for a lot of the younger people in our industry, that's incredibly aspirational. But what we love about Leading Ladies is this is another foundational layer in supporting people, particularly people that are female and female presenting, in understanding that we're all working together to create an industry that has a sense of community and a sense of support. And when we founded Light Switch, one of the things that was most important to us, Sarah, was that it was a machine for empowering people to do their best work and to feel supported, nurtured, and elevated. And that's what you guys are doing. And that's what Leading Ladies is doing, is making a really important subset of our production community feel recognized and acknowledged. And we couldn't be more proud to be involved.
Really, that's what you've just said is incredible. And as I mentioned to you before, for me to have the support from Marcel as well, going into this new venture, has been absolutely incredible. And it started with just an idea, a small idea, and already the ladies that have already been involved. Colleen Wittenberg is our guest today, and you know Colleen, don't you?
Starting with a bang. She's an amazing creative force in our industry. So I think it's brilliant that you're recognizing Colleen as the first of our many leading ladies.
Yes, and I am hoping that there's going to be, there'll be lots more. Even in Light Switch alone. I mean, you've got loads of incredible ladies out there that have got a story to tell. And for me, it's not just about, if you've got a high position or anything like that. It's where you're starting from, your passion that you've got within this industry, and also to encourage others to get into the industry. A lot about my conversation is literally from, 30 years ago, I wasn't aware of this industry. So I know it's more widely available for, to get into it. But for us to talk about it and say, okay, well, actually, I didn't go to college, or maybe I did or I didn't, but it's about, really putting yourself in. I mean, you're going to love the conversation with Colleen. I mean, such an incredible story as to, she went into the environmental side of things, studying, and just because she needed cash to support it, she was pushing boxes, to make the cash. And literally, that is it.
She's always been a hard worker, that's for sure. Yeah.
Yes, and that's not just about the ladies. That's about the gentlemen. That's about everybody out there. There's people that I believe when you join a tour, you become a family, and then within this industry, we are a family. Of course, we have the odd bicker, but what family doesn't?
Well,
normally,
what family doesn't? Yeah, and I think
exactly.
what's great about what you're doing, Sarah, is a friend of mine who is a senior at Arizona State University told me a statistic relatively recently that left me disappointed, but also committed to change. That their intake, and I know not everybody comes through tertiary education, comes through college to what we do, but I think this statistic might run true through our industry. Is he said that it's about 50-50 male female in terms of intake into their technical theater and design and production courses. By the time they reach graduation, it's about 75-25 male favoring.
Mm-hmm.
So something's going wrong there. And I think that's also happening in our industry in general. We're not doing as good enough of a job as we could, or indeed we should, to make people feel that everybody is welcome. And a lot of that is old habits. And I'm as guilty of this as anybody. But I think we all need to be mindful of our vocabulary and our actions, and also accountability. So I think if Leading Ladies helps everybody, and I'm an old white guy, so I've got a lot of learning and a lot of behavioral change to do. But if we think about how we say things, what we say, and our actions, we can really change our industry for the positive, and make it really be the most inclusive, diverse, multicultural, multi-gender, multi-faith, multi-race industry, and really continue to be aspirational for people to want to be a part of this industry. I'm a father of two daughters, both of whom work in production. Both Haley and Ella work in the production field, and I see how hard they have to work, how much harder they have to work, and how much they have to overcome. And I think that fills me with two completely contradictory emotions. The first emotion is how incredibly proud I am, not only of my kids, but of every female that works in our industry. because they are in a somewhat Sisyphusian way pushing a rock up a hill, but also makes me committed, and I know I speak for everybody at LightSwitch when I say this, committed to making things better. And that's why supporting leading ladies, and no pun intended, shining a light on these amazing females in our industry is great. But I can't wait for a day when we don't have to do that anymore, because it's natural and holistic and just everybody's instinct to treat everybody the same. Now, in order to get to that point of it being transparent and natural, we have to push a little harder into that to kind of like level up that that seesaw, if you will. So I think
Yep.
the work that you and Marcel are doing with leading ladies is a brilliant way to move that forward, and we're so proud to be involved.
You really, thank you. And I mean, look, one day when we do balance that seesaw, we'll be doing a joint podcast, me and Marcel, with everybody, and it will just be yeah, pretty awesome.
Right, right.
But and as far as so with LightSwitch, you know, at what stage, you know, did you start seeing the change with ladies, more ladies coming into the industry? Because I mean, you've been in it now for well over like 30 years. You know, at what point, you know, did you really see? I mean, now when I go back into tours, I really see that there's so many more ladies, so many
Yeah.
more in various roles. And even for me, you know, that's happened within the last, you know, really within the last 10 years. But, you know, before that,
Yeah,
when did you
I
start
think
seeing it?
certainly in the more traditional theatre market has been there's been more female presence, but in concert touring, I mean, there's been early trailblazers. Robbie Greenberg springs to mind as a dear friend of mine, and somebody that was just did so much to prove people wrong who kind of like had male focused stereotypes. But I think it's really been the last decade that we've really seen the pendulum start to swing. And frankly, we've seen such an abundance of amazing female candidates and people that we've added to the LightSwitch family over the last 10 years, and especially the last 5 years. These amazing talents, and one of the things that I enjoy most, and I know the rest of my co-principals at LightSwitch enjoy the most, is bringing all of these different life experiences and all of these different creative abilities and all of these different perspectives. You know, I think one of the things that's most exciting is when somebody comes up with an idea that is like, wow, I would never in a million years have thought of that, because I simply haven't had the life experiences that lead to that creative process. And I think the more, as one of the owners of a creative studio, the more we can make ourselves open to all of those inputs, all of that brilliant creativity, thought power, life experience, perspective, the better our product is. So really, we try very hard to not do this stuff for virtue signaling reasons. I mean, we think it's right, but it's more important to us that it's just, frankly, smart business. And anybody
Yep.
who's running a business who is excluding any segment based on any gender, faith, race, any of those things, you're leaving money on the table. You just are. You know, we are a better company at LightSwitch the more diverse and the more inclusive we become. And I think the same goes for our industry. And it's really interesting. Haley's out as lighting director on the Hans Zimmer Live tour for me. And it's really interesting watching the different perspective that the female component of that tour is bringing to the whole production, from a creative logistics, quality of life, sense of community. It truly is remarkable. And I think that is something that we should all be leaning into and frankly using as an advantage from both a creative and a quality of life standpoint.
Yeah, no, I think as well, the quality of life and the living and working on the tour, the diversity of everybody being on it, if we can work together, then it really does make for a better tour experience. And talking of that, I have actually been in contact with Haley, so I'm hoping to get her on the podcast soon, but I know she's touring at the moment, so I'm not too sure
Yeah,
of
they've got
her
another few weeks to go.
schedule.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got another few weeks to go. Well, John, I cannot thank you enough from Marcel and myself. basically to Light Switch, to you, to believe in us, to believe in me, to believe in the ladies. And yeah, so truly from the bottom of my heart, thank you. And I look forward to, basically meeting all the ladies from Light Switch, the ladies from the industry. If I've not reached out, I said this before, if I've not reached out, please reach out to me, and let's make magic happen, as they say. So, John,
yeah, and I'm gonna thank you, to be honest, Sarah, both you and Marcel, for doing this. So I think it's us that should be thanking you guys. And I just want to say to everybody, especially the guys, tune into this and listen to these incredible women that are blazing a trail in our industry and working so hard. And I know that starting from Colleen and all the other amazing guests you're going to have, I'm looking forward to learning a lot about the life journey of these people and how we can all together make our industry better. And I know that there are a lot of female and female presenting people in our industry who have really enjoyed watching Geezers of Gear. And I hope the guys show up for the women, just as the women have been showing up for the guys. And we all kind of, in doing that, show up for each other.
Yeah, well, I have to say the numbers so far from the very first one, they really did. They were up there with all of the, the top guests that we've had on Geezers of Gear. And that for me was another thing, because obviously we get to see all the numbers with everything. And I was like, Marcel, look, we've got really good numbers. And he looked at me, he was like, and I was like,
right. Well, this is probably the time to throw in a Beyonce quote, says the old white guy, but who rule the world, who runs
girls. And on that note, we are going to say goodbye and say girls.
Absolutely.
Thank
you so much, Sarah. Take care.
Thank you. So it's been a month in between my two interviews, my two chats. The first one, you may remember, was with my wonderful friend Claire Heat. I can't thank everybody enough for all the wonderful messages about the podcast, the wonderful comments. It really was overwhelming how everybody took it, which is amazing. My next guest is also a friend of mine, who I met during ColdPlay. So again, if I knew that the first person was going to be Claire, and the second was going to be this next lady coming up, or vice versa. So I'm very lucky to have had the support from two beautiful ladies coming on the podcast. So in the next couple of weeks, I'm putting together a list of lovely ladies that I would love to have on the podcast. If for whatever reason I haven't reached out to you, please reach out to me. Please. And please contact me. It's producer@geezersofgear.com. And just touch base with me and we can try and schedule a daytime that suits both of us. I will be recording from Europe. And so wherever you are in the world, we will make it happen. I am more than happy to get up early or stay up late, if it means that we can have a chat on the podcast. So now to introduce my second guest on Leading Ladies. And I really am proud of this lady. Again, we met on ColdPlay. Her name is Colleen Wittenberg. And Colleen is a freelance multi-cam director, media server programmer, and operator. Colleen has worked for some incredible artists such as ColdPlay, Aerosmith, Alanis, Morissette, U2, Lizzo, to name but a few, and is currently on tour with Hozier. Colleen has not only had an incredible career so far in our industry, in the music industry, but she's also had an amazing career on the cruise liners, and was the entertainment technical manager, senior lighting, and special effects technician. And she basically was there for about 6 years, I believe. Yep, 7 years. And then to throw everything into the mix, we had obviously. So I would like to introduce Colleen Wittenberg is a freelance multicam director, media server programmer, and operator. Colleen has worked for some incredible artists such as ColdPlay, Aerosmith, Alanis Morissette, U2, Lizzo, to name but a few, and is currently on tour with Hozier. Colleen has not only had an incredible career so far in our industry, but also started out in the cruise industry as the entertainment technical manager. Traveled the world. I believe it was something like 75 countries visited in that space at that time, which is unbelievable. And also, during the pandemic, Colleen was one of the very, very few people able to leave the United States and actually went to work for Universal in China. She was based in Beijing. It was meant to be a 4 to 6 week job, and it ended up being 6 months. So she is an incredible human. She's strong, she's passionate, loving, and full of energy for life. Please welcome Colleen, my second guest, my great friend, to the Leading Ladies podcast, part of Geezers of Gear. Hello and welcome, Colleen. Seriously. So for everybody else, we've just been chatting for like, I don't know, 10, 20 minutes already, because I've been catching up. Colleen is a wonderful friend of mine that we met again on ColdPlay. And really, like, this is only my second podcast for Leading Ladies. And I knew that the second person was going to be you. So welcome.
I'm so honored to be here. I really am. And I'm so happy to see your face.
I know. Honestly, like, when was the last time? So when did you come? You came out to see us 2 years ago?
Yeah, it was 2022.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
when I did that, I was in Europe and we had 8 days or whatever off. You
Yeah,
know?
because
So,
wasn't going on Lizzo after? Yeah.
I think that trip, well, the trip was memorable anyway, because I mean, we went down, we stayed on the beach, and that was amazing and beautiful and so cool, such a cool experience. But remember the fact that my flight didn't exist?
Oh, so for everybody here, Colleen came for the week, and of course, Just Bernie and Adventures in Crete. We went around lots of lovely places. We slept on the beach. We did everything. And
It
then
was
on the
great.
last day, well, actually, the last 2 days, Colleen was like, "Okay, we've done all the, like the hippie, like let's sleep on the beach. Now I want some luxury." So we stayed in. Okay, it's not luxury from what we all as tourists know as five-star hotels, but here in where I live, this is one of the best ones. So we stayed there for 2 nights. It was absolutely wonderful. And then in the morning, Colleen's messaged me. She was like, I can't find my flight. Like, it was meant to be in the evening. And we had loads of time. We was going to go relax. We was going to go to the beach again. And all of a sudden she's like, no, no, Sarah, my flight is in like 2 hours. I said, you're an hour away from the airport. You're never going to make it. She said, I'm going to try. I've never seen anybody pack up a bag so fast, grab a taxi, shoot to the airport. I was like, you're never going to make it. Like, you're never, ever going to make it. And she's like, I made it. I was like, no way. But anyway, but that was sad because you left so soon.
We do have to thank Manoli for that, your lovely, lovely spouse, because he found the taxi driver that was going to drive fast. Like, we
Yeah,
money, and we're like, we go fast, and
yeah. He's like,
sure he
don't take
understands.
Greece, Colleen, as a tourist. You just do the Greek stuff and
Yes,
you go fast. And he was like,
go.
really? And I was like, go. Like, literally go.
It was
And it's funny because I've just kicked Manoli out of the house. So he's taken the dogs. And I was like, come on, out, 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 out.
I love
But he
it.
does send his love. He does
I
send his love.
send it.
But
I
where
send.
are you now? So tell me, where are you right now? I know you're in a hotel.
I am. I am in the lovely Marriott Marina Del Rey, and we are starting a 3-day, 3-show. We get a break, day off in between, but we have 3 shows at the Forum starting tomorrow. So it's everybody's favorite.
Loading data. Oh yeah. So everyone, guys, like it's my morning. It's like 9:30 in the morning here, and it's now 11:30 at night for Colleen. Now I
Yes.
did phone Colleen, and I was like, Colleen, like, are you crazy? Like, you've got loading tomorrow morning. She's like, no, I'm about. Like, this is perfect time for me. I was like, okay.
Your body clock,
And so, and
just
who are
used
you
to
on
it.
tour with?
I am currently working for Hozier. He's he's an artist to work for, and it's been a lovely camp to work for, and they treat us very well, and it's been coming to an end of quite a long leg. We have a 10-week leg, and so this is the start of week 8, and so you're feeling it at the end of a tour. You're like ready to go home, and you're just like right. So we full weeks left, and actually 2 extra days, but the last 2 are festivals, so.
But even still, 8 weeks, and you're still looking fresh and like,
Shower. So
yeah, you just literally come from the beach because you're like,
yeah,
yeah, I've got sand all over me. Let me have a quick shower.
it was an exceptionally windy day, and for on the boardwalk between Santa Monica and Marina Del Rey, we walk down it, and it's just getting pelted, with wind all the way back. And I think when you had messaged me, I had just walked back into the hotel, and my hair was up basically in the messy bun that I keep on top of my head. And as I took it down, it was like just a small sand pile, and I was like, yeah. I need a shower before we do this. So
Have you come in? Is it a travel day? Have you arrived here today, or is it like a full day off? Like, when did you arrive?
we arrived actually yesterday. We were lucky. We came in from San Diego, so it was only 2.5 hours to get us here. So we've had all of yesterday and all of today basically to ourselves, and then we have 2 show days.
Wow.
So the one thing about this leg is it's been, thankfully, and this is probably one of the only tours post-pandemic that I've been on that has built-in days off, mainly for him. The songs he sings are very vocally heavy or vocally strenuous.
Hmm.
I'm not a sound
Yeah, yeah.
person, so I'm not really sure how, but he basically needs the rest. So we can't go too hard because it's really difficult for him to keep up with that kind of stuff. Like, he has to be kind to himself. So we've been kind of on this kick now where about every single week we only do 4 shows in a week, and we have a travel day and a day off together, which has been very, very helpful in keeping momentum
Wow.
going, keeping, spirits high, keeping people from getting burnt out, those kind of things.
But that's amazing because I was telling Marcel in like a little pre-interview, not interview, an intro um, last episode, how someone had approached me like to possibly do a tour. But I looked at the dates and I was like, no way. Like, literally, it was 4 days straight, load in, load out, every single day, different venue, arenas. Then it was a travel day, but the travel day was one of the longest journeys. So you're just on a bus.
The
And
whole
then
day.
you do another 4 days straight. But that was for, I think, 5 weeks. And I thought, sorry, that really doesn't interest me at
Yeah.
all. Like, really doesn't. Like, that's just burnout. Look at the schedule. That's burn. I don't, for the artist, for the crew, for everything. And, like you said, okay, it is for Hozier, but at the same time, it's for the crew as well, because you, after 8 weeks, you'll just burn out from that. And now you've had yesterday, travel day, you can sleep, you could have gone out last night to relax with everybody, which I'm sure you did.
I'm very well behaved, Sarah. I don't know where you come up with that idea.
I don't think so. But
No
anyway,
idea.
I want to know. So now you're tell me about your role now, please.
So I'm video director. This is the first he's carrying full video package for a tour. So it's been, but yeah, no, I for one time I am actually just a video director and not like three different things. So it's been nice.
Seriously. So, what happened? Like, obviously, when did you find out about this tour, and what was your process to get it to where it is now?
The reason I'm here is from a dear friend of mine, Stephen Douglas. And Stephen Douglas and I worked together on Aerosmith. Um, Aerosmith was a very interesting tour, and that was pre-pandemic. Anybody for Aerosmith probably would agree with me that it is generally it's a character building kind of tour.
Okay.
So
You can swear on this show.
so that's so Steven and I had worked together on Aerosmith, and that was definitely one of those tours where I had very many hats to wear, and it was the first so it was putting them into the Park Theater in Vegas. And so
Okay.
we were able to do it. It opened, it went well. That I'd met a great group of people on there. Steven was one of them. And Steven rang me up last spring. Yes, last spring. And was like, hey, he was asking about my fall. And he was saying, we're going to add video for Hozier's new tour. I would really like you to come out and be the director. I'm going to introduce you to Duchess Iredale, which is Steve Iredale's wife. And so of that type of legacy, that type of group of individuals, she's basically the tour director, and like she's in charge of hiring process. Hopefully this will work out. And basically Stephen put me in touch with Dutch, and kind of the rest is history. We had a conversation. She basically explained kind of the same deal, that this was the first time that they were doing video, and they want to keep a very clean element. Kind of gave me an idea of what the design looked at, but it hadn't at that point been confirmed. And
Okay.
so we kind of started talking about that at the end of May, but I wasn't locked into this for a little bit while later. There was some negotiations and things that went into play. But when it did, it was fine, and I've been here for now over a year. I think my anniversary with this group is September 2nd. So we've been kind of trucking along.
Yeah, but congratulations. And, like the pre-planning for everything, tell me a little bit more about that. Tell, what goes into the tour before you start the tour.
Particular, she was asking me what I was looking for in terms of cameras. And I basically said I kind of needed to see a plot to kind of get an idea of where I wanted to put things and what are blind spots, as well as how things are laid out, all of that sort of thing. So it took a bit to get that. We needed artist approval. And once the artist approved it, then I could actually start to look at it. Listening to his music, I knew that I didn't want this to have actual handhelds. This is not it's not a typical rock show. It's not a pop show. It's not, anything like that. There was a lot more melodic moments that I felt could use more track and dolly style, much more flowing motion, much more tracking shots than, say, either whip pans or stuff of that nature. And so I also knew, with them getting used to having video and having a video budget, that they weren't really going to go for, say, all of the toys that every director likes to play with. So I basically I set up a few different ideas for camera plots, and I sent them to them. And I said, here's an option like this, here's an option like this, and here's an option like this. And we talked it all through. I had set up, instead of proper track and dolly cameras. I had set up spider dollies, and I felt this was going to be basically the best thing for us when looking at the routing. He doesn't do one set or one style of um sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. He doesn't do one set of venues. So like this run in itself, we've had amphitheaters, we've had um truck stages, we've had festivals, we've had arenas, we've had, you know, random types of buildings. And so we have to be able to be adaptable. And so that was part of that went into this. Like when we started last year, it was the same thing. We had arenas, we had amphitheaters. We also had like these clubs. So I didn't really know how it was all gonna play. Yeah. We played what is
My face was just on a like,
yeah, try making a set that would fit in an arena and then that would also fit inside a like think nightclub almost style. I mean, it's you got to adapt. It's something that could adapt to it. And so we settled on Ollie's, and it really has been quite helpful because it's created some really great looking shots for the show. And it works very well when you have really good cameramen, like I thankfully do. They can basically use them to the advantage to help really play up the music. So also because of the way that they're basically just rubber tubing. When you are in venues where, you know, you got to go around something or it's curved or it's been really beneficial for us to have that type of flexibility. So it was functioning with what we were basically like pre-planning on what we are going to have to do. It was the same thing as I've got 6 RoboCams. We didn't necessarily start with 6. We originally started with 4 and a few lipsticks, but the vendor for this tour is Unipix and out of the UK, and they're great. And they've been really sweet about getting me absolutely anything I like or want. And so we got 2 little Panasonic 100s for this year's run, and they've been quite helpful. And we basically have them on a solid pole. And so it's even things of planning just so, you know, we're going to be in venues of amphitheaters that have solid concrete, and then we're in arenas that are on rolling stages. So we need this length of pole and this length of pole, and remembering that like, oh, we need to run cables this way, and
flexibility comes in.
oh yeah, yes. And then you turn the subs on and everything rattles and you're like, great, now we need to go get rubber matting. It's a lot of trial and error. Kind of a fun trial and error because sometimes you know, you get to play mad scientist and I like, how do we fix this problem?
I mean, obviously, right now it's a bit hard for you if any of your crew listen, but I take it you've got a good crew.
I do. They're very sweet.
So you can't really say, you know, just in case they're here, you're like, no, actually, I don't like this one. But...
yeah, I'm not going to talk about that right now.
Yeah, I know. So that was a bit of a stupid question because, of course, you're going to say they're all brilliant.
This is one that I seriously would just like have sent back in April, but apparently I'm stuck with it. No, I'm kidding. 100%.
But even that, having a good crew behind you is amazing, not only for your team, but, you know, also, like you said, you know, you've got a really nice crew because they're your family. You know, they're your family when you're on tour. In fact, something Marcel was asking me was, you know, how do you like how do we as ladies cope with living on buses? Like, is there a separate bus for the lady? I was like, no, like we all just jump on together. And he was quite shocked because he's never toured before, so he doesn't, you know, he's been on a tour bus but never lived on a tour bus. And I was like, there's just respect on a tour bus, and like that's it, isn't there? I believe.
Yeah. It's, you know, like living with 10 of your brothers that you're just like, can somebody please pick up your shoes? Please.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, no, go, darling.
I was gonna say it's the typical, you love each other but you're like family, so you needle each other and you yell at each other and there's all of this stuff. But there is a good amount of respect. We
Yeah. No, I mean, not everybody. I mean, I've been on sort of obviously various buses in my short career of touring. There's always positions on the bus that I want to get, which is right at the back at the bottom. So I'm in that, the private cabin bit, not the cabin, like there's basically, for those that don't know, you sort of go up the stairs and generally there's a left side and then there's a right side that leads to the what do you call it? The relaxing room at the top. Like, and for me, I never like going to that side because people are always walking up and down, and there are sometimes parties on the bus. So I always like to go right to the back where I know that that's where everybody wants to sleep. So I always make sure I'm there. I've been on the buses when there's been parties. I've been part of the parties on the bus. But generally, only a few, and of course, only on a day off, on a roadie Friday. That's it. But I found that everybody has been respectful, but not just respectful because I'm a lady or, there's girls on the bus. Just in general, there's rules to the buses. Like you said, pick up your shoes, tidy your shit up. Be quiet, be considerate to everybody that is asleep. Certainly, if your curtains are closed, don't come in. Don't like there's seriously there's rules to these buses.
There is.
Yeah, and that for me, I mean, there's always one dedicated person to make sure everyone's on the bus. But for me, I love that lifestyle, and it's not for everybody. It's not for everybody to have a shower in the venue. I mean, some of the venues where you have a shower at the end of the night, they are disgusting.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You don't necessarily feel cleaned when you're showering in the venue. So, and depending on
Never.
yeah. So, no,
And
it's
my biggest thing as well was obviously if you was rolling into another loading, you go straight into work. Now I'm a person, I need a shower every morning. Like really, I need a shower every morning. But you just have to switch off and you're like, okay, you're rolling in, you'll be having a shower as soon as everything's set up and done, you can have your shower. But you just got to roll in, do it, and that's it. But what I really want to ask you is, so where did you start? How did you start? Well, actually, shall I go back to it? The environmental side of things that you studied.
so
How did you? Yeah.
so
We've got a lot here. Come on.
I know. So basically was how I really started, how I got even interested in any of this was predating my environmental. It was when I was still in college. It was my sophomore year in university, and I actually I was in the theater building, and I have a minor in theater. I wanted to be a part of it. I didn't think that I didn't think that this was like a very financially stable career.
How funny.
But like things that I was very vividly. They had this big announcement board and it had, call sheets and it had help wanted things and it had all kinds of stuff for the theater and the theater community. And one of the elder classmen, her name was Laura Taylor, she walked up to me and I can't even tell you what I was staring at the point. And she goes, "Hey, are you available tonight? Do you want to make $10.75 an hour pushing boxes?" And as a broke college kid who was paying, I looked at it, it was the most amount per hour I had heard like since I had gotten down to, because I went to school at Bradley University in Peoria, Illinois. So anybody that has played Peoria, they know exactly what I'm talking about. It is not a rich community. It's in Caterpillar has a big giant warehouse in
Okay, so we had a little glitch. We believe that it was the hotel telling Colleen she's been talking for too long and it was midnight, and just cut everything off and restarted. So we're going to start again. We left off with that you'd been offered the best money to push boxes. Over to
Basically.
you.
What it was it was the loadout at the theater at the Peoria Civic Center for Phantom of the Opera. And
awesome.
it was, yeah. And so it was one of those things. It was kind of a serendipitous ask because working for the local as a college student was a great way to make money. You load in if you have a good class schedule, which I did, because at that point I was already starting to go into labs. Basically do a load in. So my call would be at 7 or 8 in the morning. I'd work for 4 hours because it's a 4-hour minimum. Go to class, go to lab. If I was on show call, I'd be done right about the time I had to report back for show call. And then I'm back at 10 o'clock at night for a loadout, which we've already established. I'm a human bat. So it was perfectly fine for me to work until 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning. And then
yeah.
And so that's really actually how I got started. I joined the union. I was part of IATSE. Once I was in there, I realized I remember looking at the ground riggers and basically being like, how much does that guy get paid? Like, and I'm like, does he make more money and they're like, yeah. And I was like, I want to learn to do that. And so they're like, oh, I don't know about that, really let women be. I was like, no, I want to learn to do that. And they're like, you have to show up. What did they told me I had to show up to learn. If I wanted to be a rigger, I had to show up at 4 o'clock in the morning to hang goalposts. And I was like,
okay.
I'm in college. Do you really seriously think 4 o'clock in the morning scares me? You showed up at 4 o'clock in the morning, learning how to tie bowling knots and, write things out on the floor and all of this. And so it just kind of continued.
Awesome. Like, you literally from the same as when I had, because you remember Claire, I had Claire, it's exactly the same thing. She kept on looking, well, what do they do? I want to learn how to do that.
Yep.
And same for you. So pushing boxes, then becoming a rigger. Yep. And then then what did you look at?
Oh, then I wanted to be an uprigger because I found out how much money they made. And I remember saying, I'm like, I want to go up there. And they were like, we're not letting you go up there. And there was a gentleman on the uprigging, and he was even tinier than me at the tender age of 19, 20. And he looked at me and he says, I'll take you up there. I'll teach you how to pull on your weight. He's like, because you're never going to have the upper body that these guys have. And he was basically, we were very similar. He's like, I'll teach you how to do this. And he did. Not uprig very long.
Okay.
And I would not uprig on the much larger shows. But yes, no, they did let me for a few times. But it was definitely a lot of fun.
I find that because, again, given the opportunity from this gentleman that was a similar size to you, I'll teach you. Yeah. And I mean, how long ago was this? How many years ago was this?
2000. I graduated from college in 2005. So that was probably 03, 04. So I'd actually have to look.
So really, one of the not one of the first ladies, but like just as it's coming in, ladies, rigging and getting into things and being told, no, you can't do that, but actually you can do that.
Yeah, it was.
And knowing
it was. I'm trying to remember of all of the road crews that came through, all of the concert road crews that came through. The theater road crews that came through, it was much more diverse. It was a lot more women, and women that were just not in, say, either the production hallway or in wardrobe or anything like that. You saw a lot of electricians that were women. You saw sound women. You saw that kind of thing. But back then in the concert touring, I want to say I saw very, very few women on the road for concerts. There was this badass rigger chick that came through that I can't remember to save my life. And I want to say maybe in the entire 3.5, 4 years that I was at the union there, because I came back after I graduated. I'd come down for bigger calls. Peoria is a 2-hour drive from Chicago. And I basically, after I graduated, I moved back to Chicago. And I wanted to take the summer off before looking for my big full-time job that I was supposed to get after college. And down for the big summer gigs. Maybe after her, I possibly 3 at the most,
Wow.
4.
So
It
please tell
was
everyone what you actually studied. So this is
I
the
had 2 bachelor's degrees, one in biology and a second one in psychology. My main focus it was in conservation science was labile carbon pools for the environment, the amount of
interesting.
carbon that is still sitting within our soils and how it is affect and how it is released into the atmosphere.
I mean, you couldn't get, you know, more chalk and cheese to like the whole scenario, like what you studied, what you've got your bachelor's in, to then where you are now. And yeah, I mean, really, you couldn't get, you know,
Farther apart.
which makes me, yeah, from far apart, but like, you know, at this point, what made you decide to basically, yeah, go a completely different route? What way was it? Yeah,
So after college, the job ended up landing in, taken on as, I was taken on with this engineering firm, and I was taken on as a contractor to start. Kind of one of these, we'll see how this works out, and then they hired me on. But as soon as they hired me on, they then turned around and they ferreted me out to Department of Environment, and I spent most of my time what are called TPR reports, and they're type 1, type 2 environmental reports. So anytime that you want to build in a building in a major city, and actually I'm not really sure, I can't really count for rural areas. I think they have a completely different set of rules, and this obviously at this point is 20 years ago, so I mean everything has kind of changed. And then when the US decided to disband a whole lot of the environmental stuff, it was really sad for me to see that. But it's basically I had to do these land surveys, and what you want to build something within this type of area. Was it wetland? Was it floodplain? Was it a historic site? Are there underground storage tanks? Are there above ground storage tanks? Is it historical? Is it of scientific interest? Is it of historical interest? Is it, and so it's like it was going through all types of different stuff. And while I actually did really enjoy the people I worked with and the world that I worked in, it was not fulfilling in any way, shape, and or form. And I had this little taupe cubicle that I sat in, and I had all these beautiful photos of all of these places that I wanted to go to, slash save, slash help,
It's not going to happen in little cubicle. It wasn't going to happen in that little cubicle.
No, I wasn't. I was stuck there. Basically, an ex-boyfriend for an anniversary took me on a cruise. The first time, so very first time ever being on a cruise, and that kind of stuff. And I wanted to go to the theater, and he wanted to go somewhere else. So I was like, well, I'm going to go to the theater. I'm going to see the show. And so left to my own devices, I went to the show. And in the middle of the show, I realized that there were people running spotlights in the show. Well, I used to run a spotlight for the Peoria Rivermen. I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then after the show, I kind of took a walk around. This is a Royal Caribbean ship, and they had these big glass doors by the tech booth where they kept all of it. And they had a whole hog 2. That's how old this is. A whole hog 2 sitting in there. And I thought, that's funny. I know how to run a whole hog 2. And when I got home from that trip, I had actually spoken to a friend of mine who was going to Columbia University. He wanted to be a sound engineer. So this is actually, he was basically talking to me about it. And he was saying he's trying to get a job on a cruise ship as a sound guy. And I was like, you can do that? Wait, time. What do you mean?
Hang on. What do you mean? People that I saw that show, there was people doing that.
Yeah. I need to know, because Chicago, it's a landlocked city. There's not a lot of cruise ships that come in and out. So I'm like, okay. I think, let's see, that was like July. Yeah, that was July. And basically, I want to say I lasted until mid-September. And, by this point, my relationship had fallen apart with that guy. And I was still doing production work on the weekends. I didn't want to give it
Mm-hmm.
up. I liked doing it. I would work for the Goodman in Chicago. I would work for this company called Center Stage Productions out of South Holland in Illinois. And so I was still keeping up my production chops at my full-time gig. But I don't know. On a whim one day when I was frustrated and I didn't want to do it, I pulled up these cruise ship companies and I applied to that to be part of their entertainment staff. And then I went and sailed the ocean for 6 years.
Seriously. And the funny thing is that's years ago. That's something that I always wanted to do, was basically travel around the world on a cruise liner. Like that was what I wanted to do. I didn't know what I was going to do, but well,
Yeah.
actually, I believed I was actually going to be the entertainer. That's because
Ooh,
I wanted to be the one on the stage.
good for
Um,
you.
but yeah, seriously, literally, thank you, ex-boyfriend, for taking you on a
I know,
cruise.
right?
Thank
So,
you for seeing the whole crew and saying,
yeah.
well, actually, I can do that. So when you first arrived on like the cruise ship to work, what position did you have there, and how long did it take you until you was running your own team and stuff?
Oh, wow. Took till so I worked for Carnival Cruise Lines for about a year and a half, and then I switched over to for about 2.5 years. Well, part of that I had a broken hand, so I was on hiatus. But I worked
Okay.
for Carnival Cruise Lines for a little bit, and then I went over to Holland America. So they use different terminology for the exact same thing. I was hired for lighting and special effects on a cruise ship, so I ran the lighting console as well as I would blow up the gerbs and all of the different like effects that they had, because this is when we still did pyro on moving
Yep.
vessels.
Now, not so much.
Yeah. Not so, no, no. We've had a few incidents that they've had to change
Yeah,
rig.
I don't really like that anymore.
Yeah. But I did my first contract as lighting and special effects technician, and then my second contract when my senior technician left iStar. And that's a small technical team. It was only basically three of us. So basically just one person had to be deemed the adult kind of thing.
Yep, that was you.
And when I went to they called it, instead of senior technician, they called it entertainment technical manager. And I basically took that over they pretty quickly. I want to say they had different classes of ships had different titles. And so when I first arrived, I arrived on a smaller ship and I was basically that. And then I was moved to a different ship because they needed somebody who could run a Grand MA to go out there. And there I wasn't, because we had a stage manager and they are considered the technical manager, the ETM. But when I would be on the smaller ships, I was the ETM, which it was Holland was great. Holland was I got to see all of the world with Holland. And I mean, when I
Amazing.
left, I basically spent most of my entire 20s on ships. I have seen 86 countries solely from sailing around on a cruise ship. Yeah. And you talk
Really,
about like weird places in the world that it's very, very difficult to reach.
but that's just, if you look at your life and everything you've done so far, so far up to now, even for your 20s,
Yep.
going visiting all those countries, you was paid to travel the world. That's what I
Yep.
used to say. Like, I want to be paid to travel the world. And like, really, that is just, yeah, it's just so cool. Like, you get to produce and direct like amazing things on cruise liners. I mean, I'm sure now they're just totally elaborate now. I've actually never been on a cruise liner. I always said it was something I'd do when I'm old, but now I'm old, maybe I'll go.
Oh, you're not old. You got so much time
Oh,
left.
no. I'm not there yet. Same as I always said I'd go to. I don't know why. There's two things: cruise liners I always said I'd go on when I'm older, let's say older, and go to Egypt. It's just somewhere I've just always thought that I would always go when I'm old.
Okay. I've never heard Egypt is
I
the
don't know
place
why.
to go.
I don't know why. I really don't know why, but it's just something I had in my head. So when you obviously travel in the world, you didn't look back at being in your little grey cubicle. And obviously, completely different change of lifestyle.
Oh,
For me,
100%.
I feel a better lifestyle. At what point did you start thinking you want to come to land, basically? You want to leave the cruise liners. Where did that opportunity come to start the touring world?
Again, it's strange how things kind of just it's funny. This industry is such a strange one to be a part of. And it's kind of one of those, I remember a conversation a few years back, pre-pandemic. We were sitting in the lobby bar, and one of the younger kids had asked, how did you choose this industry? And it wasn't
Nope.
me, it was the lighting crew chief at the time. He said, "Oh, I didn't choose it. It chose me." And I was
Oh, again, seriously, stop giving me shivers.
but like it really, for a lot of us, I think that that's what happens, is it does just kind of choose you. It holds on to you. And so it's like you get these weird opportunities that come your way. You just have to go with it. And so what happened was with me, well, a year before I left ships, there was a sound tech that came on to do a contract. And he one day turned around and looked at me, because the way that this theater was set up is there's the lighting desk, and then the sound desk was in front. And so I was actually in kind of like um an actual booth. I could close the windows and not be a part of the audience and that sort of thing. And he was in the audience. He was in a sectioned out area in the audience. And at the end of the show, he turned around and he looked at me and he goes, you don't have to stay on ships. You would do great on land. And I said, right. I have absolutely no idea how to even start on land. And he's like, right. Well, give me a call when you're on land. And I said, okay.
That was it.
Um, that was like two more contracts. I did two more contracts after that. And when I got off ships, I think I got off ships in May, and I wanted some time off. I took that time off, and then I went back. In between most of my contracts, I had worked for a company called Freeman that did mainly corporate stuff, and I would work for them in their warehouse. And so I'd gone back to Freeman, and I was basically picking up just days and shifts and stuff like that. And they were super awesome about working with the fact, like, oh, I'm home and I could be extra labor, and then I'd be gone.
Yep,
And then
then not.
so
Yep.
it's a very good segue job. And I remember texting him when I was on my way out for lunch. And I was like, hey, I'm back on land. You said to text you when I'm on land and I'm ready for, what did he call it? To work for a real company or something like that. That kind of thing. Yeah. Before I had finished lunch, he basically said, can you come? He goes, where are you? And I'm like, Chicago. And he's like, can you come to Springfield this weekend? And I said, sure. It was for the WWE. It was for the live event side of the WWE, not TV. And they were looking to hire, they were looking to hire video programmers, and it was for this horrible little media server called Maxedia. They're horrible little monsters. That we were running off of a Martin M1 console. Live events is basically practice in front of a live audience for TV for the WWE. So every weekend there was two teams. There was a red team and a blue team that would go out. Sometimes they wouldn't, but for the most part they would. And they would split up the wrestlers, and basically this is when they're not timed. They can work on their shtick. They can work on whether this gag is gonna be good for the crowd. or they're not going to get it. It's also when
Mm.
most of the silliness would occur because you're not regimented to live TV, so commercial breaks and things like that nature, and you have to be so tight. So it's like the
Yep.
gloves were off. Playtime. But yeah, I actually started touring with the WWE.
Wow. So, and that took you, was that touring around, yeah, well, like just America for that part, obviously. Like all
Yeah,
of
we went
America or
down
just
mainly America, Canada. I went to Mexico with them. I watched a wrestler get hit by a bull.
okay.
In a bull ring in Querétaro. And I apologize for all Spanish speakers because I'm pretty sure I pronounced that wrong. But yeah, he thought he can outrun the bull.
Oh my goodness. That told him.
he did not climb out of that bull ring fast enough, and definitely the out. And well, the smart thing about WWE is even at live events, we have a doctor and a physical therapist that travel the entire time.
Well, yeah, I mean that. But at the same time, people, even in the audience at that, at the live event, probably thought that that was all staged, but it wasn't.
No, they didn't see that. They didn't see that part. That was well, we were in the bull ring itself, and the bulls were all in their pens. And then Phil, being Phil, jumped into the pen and
No.
and so yeah, so he got clipped on his way of crawling out of the pen, and yeah. So it was very entertaining to be sitting.
Seriously,
Boys.
what a stupid man.
Well, they all are
So how
invincible.
long?
You didn't know, Sarah.
Yeah, but if you remember, we were invincible too.
Oh God.
Oh, and I have to, there's just a moment has just come into my mind. Now, I'm sure it was Berlin, and there's me and you on the rowing lake while all the boys are watching football. We don't want to watch the football. I think it was football. There was something going on, and we were
Yep.
like, we've had enough of all the boys.
Yep.
So we took 2 beers. We walked around the lake, and the man said, no, it's closed. And you literally like thanks. And we said, go on then, just go. So we jumped onto this little rowing boat, and I've got this beautiful picture of us like angels. We didn't even go out on the boat. We just sat in the boat.
I was basically, I kept saying, can we please take it out? And he's like, no. I was like, fine, can we sit in this boat? And he was just like, fine.
So we sat where they're all chained up on this lovely little lake. It was so romantic. But you could every now and again, I can't remember what sporting thing was going on, but there was something, and you could hear cheers.
It was the Euro
There was
Cup.
something. Was it the Euro Cup? As I said, I'm really dumb. But we just knew that we didn't want to sit with all the boys.
Nope.
And all the other boys that were there. And we were like, can we just sit in your boat, please? And there we were, drinking beer. I think that was a loading day the next day.
Oh, probably. Yeah. Every time we ran out, we would text them, bring beer to the boat.
Yes, we did. Yes, we kept on texting the boys, was like, okay, we run out of beer now. And they would come round with extra beer for us.
Only when it was a commercial break. Only when it
only when there was a commercial break, they would come around with extra beers. Oh, sorry, I just had that. It just flashed in my mind. I love that. That was a really cool time.
That was a great night.
Seriously, that tour was great. Like really, like I've got such fond memories. This is ColdPlay tour for everybody that is listening. That was ColdPlay. But we had some, and I believe we did have a lot of days off. Like we did and we didn't. Like it was like Roadie Friday, travel day leading into a day off. I do recall there was maybe one of those a week we had a day off, or at least
we had a proper day off in Berlin.
We had 3, I think.
Yeah.
I think
we had
3
another
days off.
proper day off. Was it Manchester? We had a few.
We did.
We were lucky that we had a proper day off in Zurich. I remember that.
Oh, yeah, we had Zurich as well because that was just so expensive.
Yeah.
Like literally, like everyone just stayed in the hotels. Like, okay, and even room service was like, triple the price. It's always expensive anyway, but it was like triple the price. It's like, oh my God, just sleep for the day.
That was
But
one of those silly
after,
tours. We were back and forth on that ferry like 4 times. It was so silly. It was like we started here and then we left and then we have to go back and then we have to come back and then it was like, why do we keep going on this ferry? Obviously this was I remember a Coldplay because Coldplay was when Brexit happened, when it was announced. Seriously, there was like what 130 of us or something on that tour.
yeah,
That catering that day that the vote came out for Brexit, I have never heard a catering that quiet. Never. And it was filled with people, but nobody was saying anything. Everybody was very, yeah,
I mean,
you could
even
feel it.
now, like friends of mine that are still, yeah, like from the UK that are obviously touring, they really, unless they've, I don't know how, unless the tour company apply for basically visas for everybody. Generally now, if you're just doing a short tour and they don't want to provide a visa for Europe and everything, they have to use their 90-day, allocation, and then they have to come back to the UK. And I'm like, it's just crazy. Like really, it's just like crazy now. I'm lucky. I'm here. I'm a resident in Europe, and so I've got free way to go anywhere. But like, yeah, seriously, like, let's
It
not go on
just
to that one.
it's it seemed to have messed so much up, especially
Oh,
for this
I mean,
world.
even like, yeah, everything's messed up on that. But I mean, there was so many, just logistically for everything. I mean, all the bus companies, they're going in and out. I mean, now going in and out of the UK to Europe, like it's absolutely stupid. But as I said, most tour companies I've heard, now give you a visa. But I mean, give you a visa to go to Europe. Like, um, I said, I'm lucky. I had my residency way before. Like I had it before, like, yeah, before Brexit happened. I already had it. But if I hadn't, like, I wouldn't be here living in Crete now. Well, I would because now I'm married. But I always say to people, are always like, oh, you kind of did. Like, what's the lady, the Shirley Valentine? You went away, you met the boy, you got married, and I was like, no, actually, that's
I was
wrong.
living here
Even
before the boy. Yeah.
I said, I fell in love with this island before I met my husband. I already had my life here. I said, it just that our paths never crossed while I was here until like 4 years ago. Um, but yeah, everyone, even local people, they're like, I thought that you just fell in love with Manoli. No, I fell in love with here first.
Oh my
Manoli's the
God.
bonus.
First time I visited you was, yeah, it was after
Yeah,
you too. I'll never forget your cave house. I'll never forget the night that we stayed up until who knows how long that was.
but
And my
again,
favorite
this
was
is where we use our magic. So this is a place called Matala. We're kind of like diversing now, but it doesn't matter. It's a place called Matala, and you arrived in Heracula. I came to pick you up. We came back to Matala, and I said, look, everything is closed. I think it was like October, end of October. I said, everything's closed. But I had this cave house, and literally it was like overlooking this beautiful bay, had a beautiful veranda, and it was a cave house for a reason because it was like basically a house built into the wall. It was a cave. You had to walk outside for the shower, the toilets, and everything.
it was
But the
so
view was
cool. It was
spectacular.
so cool.
Then we found one taverna, which is a restaurant that was open. So it was like, okay, give us food. So it gave us food, but everything else was closed in this village.
Do
And
you
then we're like,
remember how
can
mad
we
the
buy
look you
wine?
shot me?
Can we buy wine to take away? And they were like, yeah. I was like,
And I
great.
said, I
So I
have
think we
10
bought it.
euros. And you turned around and shot me this look. And you're like, that's too much. And I'm like, it's 10 euros.
They
like, you'll
gave
get
us
a,
what we needed. Don't get me started. You can't give money. I need wine.
it's like, okay, two. We have to, then we can get two.
And for anybody that was still living there, we had the music blaring till I think it was the sun coming up. I mean, so loud. We were dancing. Yeah,
We
it
were
was amazing.
screaming lyrics over the balcony.
Thinking that there was nobody living there, but there's still residential people there. See, you're a bad influence.
I post-mortemly apologize to the people, Mato.
No, they're saying already, you got to come back. You got to come back.
Oh, I want to.
I know you will. I know you will. I know you will. Oh, I'm going to come to you because you've got your new house that looks amazing. Really, I'm so proud of you. So
Thank
proud.
you.
Like,
It is
seriously, it
more
looks
than 10
beautiful.
years coming. I just haven't sat down to actually be like, fine, we're gonna buy this. Done.
Yeah, but I knew you, like, the style, just everything, and it just looks absolutely beautiful. And
Thank you.
obviously that's come from hard work over the years.
Yeah.
So after the live touring, how did you get into the music side of things? Yeah.
So, so WWE's lighting vendor is upstaging, and skipping over a few parts because it's been a journey. But
Yeah.
how I got into music was because of these media servers that I worked with for WWE. I had a lot of connections within upstaging because they were the ones that supplied them. So every now and then we would do refurbs and stuff like that. So I got to know them. And when it came time to look for a new gig, I basically rang up Tony Thompson at upstaging. He was like, well, put in an application, and put me down. And lo and behold, I got brought in for an interview because with my experience with that media server, as well as I had learned a few different ones along the way, they were basically like, this is when upstaging was starting to really expand their video side of things. And so they were starting to buy more LED walls, they were starting to buy more of this, and they wanted more people that would come in and they would operate servers. So I was actually brought on for upstaging to do a lot of more media server work than anything. And one of the first tours that I went out on, well, I went on a few things to fill in for people that either, because I had just started. And so I went out to relieve some people or if somebody had to go home. But one of the first things that I went out on was a Janet Jackson, and it was to run a Hippo system. And so went out and did that. And basically I came back and we were supposed to continue with Janet and continue to run Hippos. But lo and behold, at 52 years of age, she was pregnant and going to have a baby. So the tour got canceled and I got put on ColdPlay. And that's how I got to meet you. So it was very serendipitous.
No, I never knew that. Really, I didn't know that.
Yeah, if Janet
my
had
goodness.
Yeah.
But 52 as well. So there's two things I didn't know. I didn't know that one got cancelled and that's why you got put on ColdPlay. But also 52.
Yeah. Crazy, right?
I wouldn't want that. I wouldn't want that. No way.
No. But if you had Jackson money to take care of you when you were pregnant at 52, I'm sure you'll be all right.
Maybe. Okay. Yeah, we'll do it.
Yeah. But best money. But, all the money in the world to get the best doctors to help you through that. So, yeah, so that's how I ended up.
So on ColdPlay, who were you under within ColdPlay?
I was lighting. I was out there under lighting, and
most of the time I was plunger. Because obviously the other guys, yeah, I thought you was on the lighting side, and then also I was like, yeah, but now you're director. I was like, how did you do the switch from lighting to lighting?
How did this whole thing happen? It's just kind of a journey. I knew that I wanted to focus mainly on servers at the time. And after ColdPlay, there's a few more tours with upstaging. till I finally felt comfortable enough to go freelance. And when I went, I'm forgetting a person. So when I was on Janet Jackson and we were actually touring, not getting things canceled, the engineer for the video department, his name is Dave Neugenbauer. He's one of very sweet guys that helped me out. And he basically said to me, you know, and I said to him, I want to move over to video. I want to continue to do servers, because it was really strange for them. It was a weird split. We had the wall, we had the LED, we had the LED fascia, and then they had the camera package. And so normally that doesn't happen. Normally video has the wall and all of the LED fascias, etc. I was running the servers. So it was kind of a weird split. So I was this weird hybrid character in between the guys from PRG and lighting with upstaging. And so I worked a lot with Dave, and Dave basically said, he goes, well, when you're willing to make the leap, let me know and I'll help you out. So when I finally left upstaging, I basically decided I was done with doing any other lighting things. I'm only going to focus on LED and servers and things of that nature.
Yep.
And we'll go from there. I rang up Dave and basically said, I decided to go freelance and I'm freaking out and I don't know what to do. And he gave me Skip to Twitchwell's number from PRG, who's again one of my mentors and a very sweet friend of mine. And he gave me a few other numbers to call. And basically, Skip kept me consistently busy for the next few years. After I decided that I wanted to do more server work, I paid to do the actual training for D3, and I got myself a whole bunch of kind of equipment to kind of help me along that way. And he started putting me out on D3 gigs. And so D3 gigs led to more exposure and definitely more time around like the people that make kind of the decisions. Skip was actually the first person to kind of believe in me that I could be a director. When I was out on U2, he had rang me up. We had a 2-month break from the US to the European leg. And he said, hey, the director for this probably cannot do this gig. Do you want to come do this Carrie Underwood thing? And it was one show. It was basically a corporate show. He's like, you'll be able to handle it. It's only like 3 songs, et cetera, et cetera. That fell through, but it was the first time that idea had actually come into my head that, I really could be a video director. And it wasn't until Aerosmith.
This wonderful one. This wonderful gig, Aerosmith.
Yeah, this wonderful gig. this gigs where the people that you worked with become some of your closest friends, but it's all because it's just trauma bonded together.
You're like your friend.
That's more accurate. They were trying to keep things on the cheap, and since it was supposed to be a residency, they wanted to keep a lot of people that were Vegas based, but they didn't have anybody to run the D3 system. I had a friend in Vegas, and basically they were going to up my per diem if I could stay with him, and then that kind of thing. But things changed, obviously, and they were trying to get directors, localized directors. Most of the directors in Vegas were all corporate guys. So
right,
directing rock and roll and directing corporate are 2 very different animals. Yeah. And so they got one guy in. Well, one guy showed up and he was drunk.
Well, that kind of could have worked.
Also at the time, Steven Tyler was sober, and so we had to be very careful on certain things. So yeah, having a drunk guy walk around generally when the artist was in the building, not a good look. Definitely not a good look. So he didn't last long. Then we got another guy in. They hired another guy, and this guy was even worse. We kept trying to ask him questions about his cameras and what he wanted and where he wanted them, and he he basically pawned it all off. We're like, okay. And we did 2 rehearsals with him, and I don't think he changed the camera once, maybe twice. Maybe he actually did. Maybe he did push a different button. But like said, we had one of the cameras locked off on Steven. We did like one run through with one song or something, and it never changed. And the designers and the producers and everything are watching this, and they're just like, what are we going to do? And then that was like in the morning, and in the evening we did another one. Same thing happened. I think he at one point started messing with things, but it wasn't a rehearsal. It was just like going through the actual cameras that we had. It was very peculiar. It was very odd.
Just like, I think I'm going to sit here and just press a few buttons and see what happens.
Yeah. It was like, oh, what does this do? Oh, what does this one look like? Oh, what, it was quite bizarre. So they fired him that evening, and the show producer came up to me and he looked at me and he goes, I think you would make a director. And I was like, you don't know that.
You're digging now. You're digging, and you're like digging, like, that should be really good.
Yeah, I'm like, you don't know me, And at this point, I was the crew chief, and I was the crew chief. I was the D3 operator. I was I would become the projectionist for a bit until we got another one in. This was a very tricky job, and so I basically said, I'll do this. How about this? I will run a rehearsal. I will run one rehearsal, and at the end of that rehearsal, we'll have a conversation. If you guys are happy and I'm happy and I feel I can do this and you feel I can do this, we'll have a conversation. But, I'll do one rehearsal. Well, 4 rehearsals later, I kept saying, when are we having this conversation?
So that was it. It was your gig.
It was and that was the first gig I did.
So again, you have to say, thank you, drunk man. Thank you, man that just pressed button, because this is it. This is my time to shine.
Yeah.
And, I'm sorry that, it took 2 rubbish people, to get you out there, but it happened. So it's amazing. And really, like, that's just, again, being somewhere at the right time to go through. And like you said, you was doing everything. You're doing all the different jobs. It's your character. It's who you are. How long did the Aerosmith gig last?
It wasn't long. That one wasn't long. They did a residency, and I was already scheduled to go back. So what had happened was, that was their first residency, and in the midst of that, I was supposed to go back to U2, and I got asked if I would go to Carrie Underwood for D3 because they needed a D3 operator / programmer for that. And so I left when I loaded that out of park. I thought I was done with Aerosmith. And then I had a gap in my schedule, or actually, basically, Carrie Underwood, U2, and Aerosmith were all contracts by PRG.
Okay.
And so I went out and did the first leg of Carrie Underwood's Cry Pretty tour, and they were saying, "Are you coming back for the second leg?" And I said, "I don't think so," because we're gonna start to run into conflict. My other things. I'm not really sure what's happening, but it's going to tell me, since it's the same company doing all 3.
Yeah, you're under the same umbrella, basically.
Yeah. And so what had happened was Aerosmith had called and wanted me to come out to do their East Coast run. And I think I agreed to that. It's like I could have done Aerosmith's East Coast and then U2's Australia and Asia Joshua Trees run, and that would have fit together. And if I stayed and done Carrie Underwood, it basically would have conflicted with both. So I did not go back to Carrie Underwood, and I got to have like a few days off, a week off or something like that, and then I went back to do.
But that's also, you basically went, so, and still this is now, basically you've done, that's it, you've taken the lead. Now you're director still for Aerosmith.
Mhm. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as
Which
still
is
as and still media ops. So I was still being a director and running the D3.
okay. Yeah.
And so I've done that.
And go on.
So and then no, I went back to U2 and that was 2019 and then we had a pandemic. So
So this is well, actually, I think so. Was 2019 that the last time you've done anything with U2? Yes. Yeah, of
yeah,
course. That was the Joshua
yeah.
Tree. That was because there's just one thing. You managed to hit the Vogue magazine, girly.
Ha! That
I
was
saw it.
2018. That was 2018.
Okay. Okay, that was 2018.
That was 2018. Yeah, that was an interesting publicity thing that occurred on
I was
YouTube.
stalking you, and I was like, I mean, that's how far I've gone down on your Facebook. Like, I've been look down. I'm stalking, and I was like, okay, but I was so interested. Like, I was just like, oh, okay. Then I saw this Vogue, and all your friends, like, they were like, yeah, I made it to Vogue.
The funniest thing about that is one of the girls I know, she's got a friend that used to actually be a runway model, like a proper runway model, right? Before we've hung out, we've had dinners. She's lovely. I like her a lot. And so Maddie rings her up and says, "You'll never believe who beat you into Vogue."
That's hilarious.
Told her it was me. She was like, "There's no way."
That's so funny. He's just like, yep,
Yes,
but I did. I'm
yeah,
there.
for anybody that honestly knows me, I basically live in t-shirt and jeans and generally a swag t-shirt and jeans. So it's kind of one of those. It
And
was
totally
quite
beautiful
funny.
all the time. Look at you. She does her hair like this. Like, yes, I'm still gorgeous.
This is just it. This is what it does. So as it dries. But yeah, no, it was that was I think my favorite comment out of that whole thing because it was also one of the first times that I've dealt with being misquoted. And so I think I actually hate anytime I see my words in print because they always seem to be either misconstrued or taken out of context or, altered in a way. And I'm like, what is this?
That's the same with, I mean, really, no, like, yeah, anything in writing, it can, how your emotions and how you want to get something across could be completely different,
Oh yeah.
I believe,
It's
like
it
chatting,
was very funny.
exactly, you said it. But now we come to basically, which I find totally pandemic time, and you're home, and then next minute, because I remember this so well, because you was like, I'm going to China. What?
Yep. Yeah. I think one of the biggest things in this wacky entertainment career that I've had is I've never been really afraid to pivot to try different things. A very dear friend of mine reached out and said, "Hey, apply for this." And it was basically his roommate's friend had posted that she needed 12 people. They're based out of New York, so she wanted 12 New York stagehands, 12 local one stagehands, to get on this plane and come to China and help build a theater for Universal. They were so far behind in schedule, they were so far behind in things, and she was looking to get, originally she was looking to get a plane of them, settled on 12. And at the time, I will even admit I didn't even want to apply because I figured there's no way that she's going to choose me. She doesn't know me. Worked in New York. She has all these people, all these very skilled people that she can use that are used to this, that are used to doing theater installs and used to being part of this. This is their life. But then I took a look at it again one night because she had posted this, I think, on Facebook or something of that nature. And there was like 150 comments and they were all asking things. You could tell that these were all people that have never toured or never done anything like this. Can I go home from Christmas? Can I go home on the weekends? Can I bring my family? Can I bring my pets? Can I bring, you know, and I'm like reading all of this. Will we get time off for the holidays? Will we get time off for this? And I was just like, oh, they don't get it. Like that's
No,
that's not how these things work. Once you're there
no.
and that's it.
Yep.
Sometimes obviously there's exceptions. And so I casually was like, all right, I'm going to write her this letter. And she told me that the reason why my letter stood out was because I made her laugh. And it was basically, I wrote her and I said, hey, we don't know each other. I'm a friend of so-and-so who's a friend of so-and-so. And they passed your info. It sounds like you're looking for people who will do whatever is necessary. And so I basically I'm like, if you need me to wrangle locals and unload trucks, I'm your girl. If you need me to program video servers and sling LED, I'm there for you. But then I if you need me to drag 500 feet of feeder through sand, we may need to have a conversation. But I'll probably. First thing she said to me, she goes, what if I need you to drag feeder? We don't have sand. What if I need you to drag feeder through snow? And I'm like, that's a lot easier than sand. So that's done any of those festivals on a beach, dragging feeder through sand is miserable.
I've never have, never will.
Yeah. So no, I somehow got picked to be one of those people, and on the most extensive process to get me out of the country that I have ever been through. And I mean, crossed a lot of borders and gotten on a lot of planes. This one wins. I had a full binder, and I mean, I had properly prepared. I had so much paperwork to get me out of the country and into China. I was there for.
Had the world closed down at this point?
Yeah. Yeah.
It had. So it wasn't even that you got the gig before and then it closed down. You literally, the world closed down. Universal out in China did everything to get you out of the States into China. And you was there.
My understanding of it, for the 12 of us to get to China with the amount that they were charging visas, it was over $1 million. Yeah. Like each one of our visas cost over $100,000 to get us out. It was anybody that has flown through Dallas. I had a 4-hour layover in Dallas, between Orlando and Dallas, and I have never seen Dallas that empty in my entire life, and I never will again. It was the most eerie, bizarre thing in the world. Flights a week that were going back between China and the States during December of 2020, so the height of the pandemic. I was there. And then I was there.
And on the airplanes, like how was it on the airplane? Was it busy? Was it empty? Like
it was, oh man, it was very empty. They were kind enough. I don't know how it works. It was not expected. But they did fly a bunch of us business class over, which was great. I think there was 3 of us in business, and that was it.
But even still, like that, like I always say, money talks, and that to get you out into China, over. But anyway, that's just. So how long was the gig meant to last for? Because I believe I saw something like it was only meant to last like, I don't know, 4 weeks. It lasted 6 weeks or something.
Yeah. So the way that it was pitched was it was supposed to be like 6 to 8 weeks. So it's supposed to be 6 to 8 weeks. December 8th, I had a ticket back to the States, I think March 8th or something like that. I want to say it was about a month into China time. So I'd gone through the necessary quarantines. I'd gone through all of that. I was on site. And one day we realized all of our return tickets were canceled. And we never really got a straight answer. It was, you can work until your visa's out. And then
Okay.
like we'll keep, they kept saying, oh, we're going to need you to probably till April. We're going to need you to probably till this. And then finally that went away till you can stay as long as you want. If you're done and you want to go home, tell us and we'll send you home.
Yep.
So basically we all had to give, I think remember it being April was when the first people started talking about they either had to go back because they had certain things happening, or that kind of stuff. But it became you're here on a 180-day visa. We will continue to pay you and continue to employ you up until it's time for you to go home. And they wanted everybody to have a midway through. They wanted people, there started to become an interesting thing developing over there where we had to leave. They wanted us out of meaning Universal, Universal wanted us
Yep.
off on a plane minimum 2 days before our visa expired, minimum, if not a few more, because what was happening is people were now leaving it to the very last minute of their visas, and certain times at the airport they wouldn't let them get on the plane. They were saying they were overstaying their visa, because depending on who it is, and anybody that's worked in China understands when I say new day, new rules, because that's kind of just how it was. Like you'd show up to the job site and you would show them your badge and you'd show them your QR health code that said that you were free and then you hadn't been exposed to COVID. And that would be enough some days. And then some days they wanted to see your badge and that code and this other code that said you could travel. And then some days they wanted to see your badge. And then, and you're just like, new day, new rule, new day, this is the new thing, And so the uniformity, just knowing it's like, oh, I just need to go in and check my badge, isn't here. So, now I need the green arrow code. Now I need this code. Now I don't need any of these codes and just my badge. Now today he doesn't want the health code, but he wants the green arrow code. It was fine.
I'm just going to take it all with me and you
Yep.
can just have what you want.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I'm assuming you was in like a complete bubble when you were there.
I'm sorry, it was what?
I'm presuming you was in like your own little bubble, like when you was there.
Oh, yeah, it was weird. Like because of the way that China tracks things, we all stayed in the same building. My team stayed in the same building. So like the 12 of us that came over. I shouldn't even say my team because then I actually I would say this lovingly. I got kicked out of the big theater, but then they made me a PSM of the small theater. And I was like, wait, this is more responsibility. I'll have a lot more responsibility. I got to deal with like vendors now. So, for the 12 of us, we lived in the same building, which made it easy for transport and stuff like that. But there was, in terms of like a bubble, like you talk about like these COVID bubbles, or if like for the few things that were working, you had to stay within like the confines of that. That didn't happen. We were free to roam. Wow. It was basically, you would hear about neighborhoods that would be locked down in China. So a lot of their buildings actually have gates. And so they would lock the gates. Like that's where you hear a lot of that kind of stuff of like these lock-ins and these like what was going on over there. But I mean, because we had to scan this health app everywhere we went, and so that they can track, if you were within X number of feet of somebody that happens to have COVID, you could go anywhere. It was like everyday life had restored over there. It was rather bizarre. For actually a cruise ship musician that I knew had been living in Beijing for years and years. And I had texted him and said, hey, I'm in Beijing. And his response to me was, for the embassy now. I was like, why do you think?
No, Universal.
Yeah, I was like,
it's the
why?
same thing.
Yeah, how did you get in the country? We're letting anybody in. I'm here to work for Universal. And he goes, oh, okay, that makes sense. And I was like, what do you mean? He goes, only them and was it Volkswagen, because they're building a plant. So there was no tourists in all of China, but this random selection of people that had obviously lived there prior, but then this expat community of these people from Universal, and then this group of Germans running it. That was basically the extent of the non-Chinese that was in Beijing at the time that I was there. It was wild. It was
That's
pretty wild.
really, I mean, I've been to Beijing and I loved it, but I couldn't imagine it. I mean, can you imagine Beijing with no tourists? Like,
Yeah. Yeah, we found like the expat communities, and one of the things we really liked was we found different pub trivia nights. And so we would go to these pub trivia nights and we'd meet these other expats that were here for like other things. And we'd be like, how is this even, this is so bizarre, not having other foreigners, you're in a
yeah,
major city. We got very, very, very few days off. We worked 6 days a week. We did work very, very long hours. And with the commute, it was basically a 13-hour day every day. If not more. So, but when we would have a day off, we would do excursions. Like we did end up going to the Great Wall. And we realized we had hired a driver to get us there and all of this stuff, and he stayed and he was our guide. He actually took us to I think an illegal part of the wall, but I mean we were with a driver, so I don't anyway.
yeah.
You're on one of the most visited tourist spots in the
With
world.
nobody.
Yeah. And there was like no foreigners. It was so bizarre.
I've been to the wall 3 times, and the first time it was, I mean, there was lots of people, and you know, I hate people. I don't really, but I do. I hated it. Then we stayed overnight, literally in a little village down from the wall. Got up at like 4 or 5 in the morning to walk onto the wall for the sunrise, but nobody was there. It was only
Yeah.
me and my friend Andrew that was traveling with. That was amazing, seeing the wall empty. So, but knowing you was there, like with literally nobody, incredible. And I've also been fortunate enough to go to, I can't remember the name of it, sorry, but where the wall basically goes out into the sea. So where it ends. So I've been there as well.
That
is
cool.
awesome. Yeah, so that was really awesome.
I like that.
I love
That's
China.
super
I
cool.
traveled around China on my own for like a month. So I loved it and struggled. Really, I struggled. Like everywhere I went, like one particular village, they were like, nobody would let me stay there. So nobody, and I'd go to the hotels and they were like scared of me.
Yep.
Like really, I was the only Western girl walking around. And then I got to one hotel and I was like, please, like I need somewhere to stay. Like I'm now getting desperate. And they pick up the phone and this man answers and I'm like, hello? And he's like, what do you want? I was like, I just need a room. Like he said, oh, okay, put me on. Obviously he spoke Chinese. And then they're like, okay. He was like, how long do you? I said, I need it for 2 days. That's it. And I was then going through to Vietnam. But really there were certain points where, I could talk about that, but we've been talking age, but yeah,
but it
traveling
is
in China.
actually, it's actually, I had the similar thing. So when I was leaving, I asked for 8 days. I asked for 8 days to go traveling. And I went to 4 different places in 8 days because I'm crazy like that. And I was on a plane. I think I was leaving Zhangjiajie and I was going to Chengdu. And the stewardess came up to me and she's like, I need to see your passport. And I gave her my passport. She's like, I need to see your QR code. And I gave her my QR code. She's like, I need to see this QR code. And I gave her that QR code. She goes, now I need to see the green arrow code. And I gave her that. And she turned to this group of people that was basically like eyeing me. And she basically spoke to them, and you'd see them look at me and look at her, and they would say something. I could tell they were upset that I was on the plane. And I was just like, fascinated. I don't know what to tell you. Like, I'm sitting here in my
I mean,
mask and I've got all of my paperwork filled. And she basically, you see her just look at him and tell her, like, point at me, and I can almost imagine the conversation is she has all the right paperwork to travel. What do you want me to do? You
yeah,
know,
really.
and
And then some of the villages, they really, like, as I was
they don't.
traveling through, that they just, but also don't know how to, even with my best sign language, they didn't understand me.
Yeah.
And scared. I felt, I mean, this again, I mean, I traveled, that was years ago. That was at least 20 years ago. I did that. So I know, again, things have changed because things change. But after you had your exploring at the end, you managed to get out the country.
Yep.
No worries there. Straight
Yeah.
then into a world that was coming out and into a world of touring that was kind of happening, not happening. And was your next gig the Marvel?
No, Marvel was way before that. That was a long ass time ago. So I came out of China and I then turned around and went and installed video systems on a cruise ship in Italy for
Wow.
about a month. One of my friends that I used to work for now works for a creative company, and because of his relations and what he did for Holland, he basically was able to get his company a contract and they handle all of the video systems across the ships. So then he was now hiring me as a contractor and go out there and then now install these systems. So I went out to Italy, and so Italy had more restrictions than China, if you can believe that.
Yeah, oh, I can. Yeah, no, I can.
And then I remember flying back from Italy and I went immediately to, I think I even had my flight changed. I did. From Italy to Nashville to start Alanis prep. And then
Oh,
I went out on Alanis. I was on one of the first tours to go out fully after the pandemic. That was not country. Because country tours they stopped, but they didn't like stop.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that part because I don't think in America you had, and really, I don't know, but there weren't as many restrictions as what we had over here in Europe.
It depended on where you were. It definitely depended on where you were. It definitely depended on your state government and how your state government felt. So I mean, when I was still stateside and I was in for a period of time during the pandemic, I was in Chicago. It was pretty locked down. It was pretty much like there was not a lot open. There was a lot of restricted hours. There was a lot of there was definitely
Curfews,
restricted
everything.
time. You know, California, because in the middle of the pandemic, I actually moved out to California because the filming industry was finding a way to open up. And a
Oh,
friend of
yeah,
mine at the
yeah.
time had basically said, "You've always wanted to try to work on the filming. This will be your time." Because it's not going to conflict with touring. It's not going to conflict with concerts. They're
No,
not coming back yet. But the film industry and the TV industry was trying to find ways around, like to do protocols on time and that kind of stuff. So I'd moved to Cali, and out there it was I don't want to say by that point things were things were pretty much open, but of course they were doing the social distancing, they were doing the outside tables, that kind of stuff. But it wasn't like from like I heard about in the UK where there was like police checkpoints set up.
really. Even here in Crete, like, we weren't allowed. Yeah, we weren't allowed. I mean, okay, nobody, but they actually, no, they did listen. They did listen. It was me that didn't, and I went to the mountains walking. But yeah, it was. I mean, as we all know, if we were all affected in different ways. But I was like more like as it was coming out. So after you'd got back from China, things I believe like opened up a bit more in America than it did for here. That's my memory of it. But um, so after Alanis Morissette, like what was the next thing for you?
John Mayer. So, oh no. I left Alanis. And then oh, ew. Shoot, what did I do? I did Alanis. I came home. I got put out on Carol G. I ended up walking off Carol. It's the only time I've ever walked off a tour. Basically quit.
Okay.
I shouldn't say I walked off. I actually quit. I was given an option, and they basically said we're going to continue to do things this way, and you've got a problem with that, you can go home. And I said I have a problem with that. I'm going to go home.
Okay.
And it was they were violating COVID protocols that they said they were going to do. They were putting people that were COVID positive on commercial flights, and they knew that they were COVID positive.
I
And
remember you telling me this when you came.
yeah,
You were telling me this, yeah.
and I was
Like that
just
was really bad.
I was really much in shock because it was like the industry had been shut down for 18 months. We finally come back, and now, it just
You're
seemed,
putting positive people on a commercial flight.
yeah, it just seemed very negligent. And it was just one of those things where it was like, you don't know who you're putting these people next to. You might be putting these people next to somebody that can't get the vaccine, somebody's grandmother that for whatever her situation is, and it just seemed really, there was a whole lot of other things. That was that was what the meeting was about. But this was coming up on, believe me, a laundry list of insanity. The tour was insane. There was so much in this tour that I just remember saying, this is nuts, So when they basically gave me an out, I was like, that's fine. I don't need to be here. I don't need to do this one. And I came home and I went to the desert. I did the Soundstorm for 2021. And so that gave me an interesting perspective on being a part of like the more creative side of things, the side of things instead of the more technical side of things. And then I started 2022. Oh, right from home, I was asked to fill in for the D3 op on Lizzo. And so I met the Lizzo camp for New Year's of that year. And that would lead me to work for Lizzo for the special tour for when it started up at the end of 2022 and into 2023.
Which I
So
think you kind of knew that you was guessing it, but when you was in Crete with me, you was like, and it was like, and actually, one of Lizzo's song came on the other day, and because I knew I was going to see you, but there's certain songs obviously remind me, but also I was like dancing. So really, because now we have, and I knew this was going to be a long chat. Literally, I think we've nearly been about 2 hours. Sorry, guys, but you can pause this at any point if you haven't already. But I mean, not just say for the ladies, but in the industry, is there anything is there any guidance you can give anybody? Whether it's believe in yourself or take every opportunity, like what's your advice to anybody out there that wants to get into the industry? Yeah, what would you say to anybody out there?
you know what, it's like advice to people trying to get into the industry: take everything that you can possibly get because you don't know exactly what you're going to like. The other thing is learn to be very flexible. So it's like, if you look at all of these different things we're talking about, I've not necessarily stayed with one thing, and I don't necessarily plan to stay with one thing. And it's mainly because it gives a completely different perspective. I went and did a Broadway tryout in 2022. So it's like I'm working in a theater, and I did that right after I went and did 2 months of ship installs, which I did right up after I had done a concert tour, which then led to another concert tour. And like actually at the end of this, we have a month off before we go to Australia. I'm going to go back to Universal because they called me and they want me to help with one of their shows that they're installing at Epic in Orlando. So it's like, be open to people that call you, because one, you're never going to know where your next gig is going to come from. You're never going to know how you're going to get there. Do not be do not be married to this idea of you need to follow these steps to do this, or you need to go this way. I think one of the best things I ever heard was a pilot is off course 90% of the time. I thought that was really cool. An actual airline pilot, like the plane doesn't stay on the track, it just,
Yeah. Just
so
goes like that a little bit.
yeah. And that's kind of the thing. I also don't be afraid of the word no.
I've got that. Yeah.
That
To use it and to be told it.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think there's so many people in this world that are, oh, if I call this person and I ask for this, they're just going to say no. Sure, they might, or they might not. Or they
Yep.
might say no this time, but remember that you were interested in this thing. Call you the next time. Or a no might actually be a really good thing. A no might be a really good thing because it could lead to something that somebody will say yes to. So it's like, I think like people, I've got no problem cold calling people or cold emailing people, because especially as a freelancer, being a freelancer is definitely not for everybody. There's a lot of anxiety that goes with being a freelancer. There,
I know that feeling.
there's a ton of anxiety that sits with some of these. And it doesn't matter if you've been in this industry for a year or 20 years. I talk to industry titans, people that you would never think that would be like, and they have the same freelancer freak out that we all do when we're not really sure what's going to happen next. But don't be afraid to like just write an email to somebody and be like, hey, either somebody or I got your info from so and so, and I'm looking to do this. I would love to work with your camp. If you have anything available, please let me know.
Yep.
Yeah. The other thing is, it's like, especially once you've spent time in the industry, people think that and if you're any good, people think you're busy. So it's like, you don't get the phone calls all the time because people think like you're always working. I can't tell you how many times I get phone calls now that's like, hey, what you out on right now? It's never, are you home? Are you out on right now? It's like the decision's already been made. And so
Which actually is really, that is a brilliant, that's brilliant, actually excellent advice, because just because maybe you are home, but then that's when the anxiety sets in. But people think you're out.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, people think you're out and about. I mean, even just here being in Crete, I make all my little videos around everywhere. Whenever I see anybody, they're like, oh, you're always out and about. And I'm like, I'm not actually. Right, I haven't been out for 1 month now, at least.
Yeah, I'm
like,
actually here.
Like, I'm here. And they're like, but I saw it. I said, yeah, because I post things like after, or I do stuff, this, that, and the other. But like, it's the same with work. People presume that you're out on a gig, but they don't. So send that email, call somebody up, say I'm free. Maybe don't put it on social media, because then, you might get the bad name, like I'm free.
But it is, it's like you can casually, it's like, I was talking about it the other day, we're not for Hozier, it's unclear of what's going to happen with him for next year. So it's like, right, okay. So it's like, you have to start thinking about, when do I want to start putting feelers out again and be like, hey, do you know of anybody that's looking for so-and-so around this time? That's just how it is. I remember when I won the Parnelli, Skip had called me to congratulate me. It was so sweet. And he said, and now be prepared for nobody to call you for about 2 years because they think you're busy. And I was just like, that's not a good gift.
When did you win the award? That's amazing. When was that? When did you win?
But it's funny thing is if you think about the logic, it's true. It's like people assume, and especially in this industry, if people are trying to fill a gig, or they're, time is very important. Time is our biggest commodity. Yeah. And if you're a production manager, you're a designer, you're anything, you're not going to call a bunch of people that you're just like, why am I going to call them? They're going to be busy, So it's like you have to think of it from their perspective as well. So I do think that people are terrified of the word no. And they're terrified of that type of rejection because they think like that no is like a solid, don't ever freaking call me again. Now, if they say that, that's one thing. But across that yet where you call somebody up and you say, hey, are you or anybody you know currently looking for somebody that has X, Y, and Z skills, and they've
Yes, I
said,
am, but not you.
yeah, exactly.
Now I'm gonna cry.
Yeah. I didn't know. But
But
it
yeah,
is.
hearing the word no can be a positive thing.
It can.
Like
It
no,
can.
not at the moment, or like you said, but now you're on my radar. I'll keep you in mind. Um, and I also think, like I said earlier, like on the flip side of it, it's okay to say no as well. So many people they take on too much because they can't say no, or if they say no, they think they'll never get asked again. You
Yep.
will get asked again. You say no, sorry, I can't at the moment, but keep me in mind for something else you have it. So no is a good word.
No can be
But I
a very
also
good example. I was going to say real quick.
no.
Don't know is I
No,
was
no,
actually,
no, no. Sorry.
I love it. Um, when I took Hozier, I was actually, before it was confirmed, I was up for a different job and I really wanted it. And what happened was basically the production manager was for it. It was the designers. The designers wanted a director that they knew and they worked with. They had never worked with me. So I was told no. Well, that tour got canceled and I've been going with this group for a year. So sometimes a no can be very serendipitous. A no can
Yeah.
be something that you don't realize why you're getting that no. You know,
Yeah, no. Well, that's luck. That's yeah, really, that's Jose. Make sure you go out next year. If not, she's gonna be free, guys. She's gonna be free. Call my
point, maybe.
wonderful friend.
I have to go decorate
But
this
no, I
whole
just thought,
house thing I have.
yeah, no, that could wait. But I've also got to hear from you as well that remembering that you're here for you and it's up to you to make your own opportunities. And the best thing that you sent me was remember that a lion never has to tell you it's a lion. And
Yes.
you, my love, are my lion. Because literally, no, you are. You are. You know exactly who you are. You know exactly where you want to be. You know exactly where. In fact, going right back onto this podcast, you mentioned like, your ex-boyfriend on the cruise liner. He didn't want to go to the show, but you did. Now you didn't go, okay, I'll come with you. You was like, no, I'm going to the show. Like you knew what you want, and that is where you are today. Couldn't be prouder of you for absolutely everything, really everything. And I just wanted one last thing from me. So I sent you like the guest form to fill out. I mean, I
Yes.
knew everything about you anyway, but it just comes part and part with what I do. But then I was like, the very first question is like, are there 2 or 3 things you'd like to talk about? And I just got, it's like traveling, animals, especially way to help the homeless pets. I was like, darling, we're talking about you and your career, but we can talk
Oh,
about animals if you want.
what animals? We can talk
No,
about your
I know,
zoo.
I,
You
I
have
know
a
you love the animals.
zoo.
I do. I have my baby zoo here.
I love it.
There are only two dogs, but there's quite a few cats right now. And as you know, I always try and help as many as I can
And you have the
around here.
specialty.
So yeah.
Yeah.
No, he died. Sorry, Richter died.
Oh
Yeah,
no.
yeah,
Poor
he went.
thing.
He died.
Oh.
Yeah, I did. I had a special. He couldn't walk properly, bless him, but he got an infection because he did. So he died. But don't
Oh.
worry, we then adopted another family, so we've got more. And it's always very sad when you lose them here, but it's kind of like it's a tough world here, not only for us humans, but it's really tough for the animals. But like I said, I try and do as much as I can. Traveling, I don't do so much anymore. off the island. In fact, last week was the first time I left the island in 2 years. Two
Are you
years.
serious?
That's crazy.
That's
Seriously,
wild.
2 years. I know, really. And that goes from me, who literally, like you, always traveling all my life. And then now I'm just like, yeah, I'm fine. I don't leave the island. So, but I may be going
That's such a
to
lovely community, though. You're
it is lovely. I do. And I don't know where you're going to be, but I'm hoping that I'm going to be in Las Vegas in December for LDI. So
okay.
I don't know if you're going to be around. I don't know if you're going to be around, but we'll keep in touch anyway.
We'll definitely keep in touch. I
Yeah.
have to go to Universal for I think a week in December at some point, but I'm not sure when.
Okay. Well, tell them that you can't go around about the 10th, no, 8th to the 10th, because
Okay.
you have to be in Las Vegas.
Okay, perfect.
Colleen, it has been so wonderful to talk to you. I
Sarah, it's
love
my
seeing you.
honor.
Thank you so much for being part of the leading ladies. And I can't wait to see you soon.
I can't wait to see you in person soon. Yes.
In person.
Yeah.
Bye.